is going on? This is Airplane Mode, and today, guys, I'm going to be flying Alaska Airlines Flight 944 with service from Dallas-Fort Worth to Tucson, Arizona. The plane has been started up and is almost ready to go, so let's jump into the flight deck and get ourselves moving. Guys, welcome aboard Alaska Airlines Flight 944 with full service to Tucson, Arizona. The approximate flight time for today's flight is 2 hours and 35 minutes with 174 passengers on board and a cruising altitude of 30,000 feet. To begin, we can go ahead and run through our FMC. Alright guys, now that we are down here at our FMC, you can clearly see that we are departing out of Dallas-Fort Worth and arriving in Tucson, Arizona as Alaska Airlines Flight 944. Once again, there's no company route associated with today's flight, so with that we can move to our departure and arrival index. We are departing out of runway 13 right with the Swabber for departure and the Keykin transition, and we are arriving on the Zona 1 arrival with the transition. And we are doing an ILS for 11 left with the Dingo transition, and obviously we want the glide slope. And that is pretty much it for our FMC, obviously our cruising altitude of 30,000 feet. So anyway, now we can go ahead and continue some of our other checks. Alright guys, now that we are back up at the top of our flight deck right here, we can go ahead and continue our checks by turning on all of our fuel pumps. After we have done that, we can go ahead and turn on our electric hydraulic pumps. We can turn our anti-collision lights on, and for push and start, we can go ahead and switch our packs to their off position. And with that, we are pretty much set to call for our pushback, so we can go to flight, show ground handling window, and I'm going to disengage my brakes like that, and we are going to do a straight pushback.
Okay, push cart on the way.
Once again, guys, you know that I do not trust the engine start, so I will be seeing you guys after I am done with the pushback. Alright guys, now that our pushback truck has left us, we can go ahead and start our engine. So we can start engine 2 first, so we can set engine 2 to the ground position and wait for N2 to reach 25%. Alright, there's 25%. We can go ahead and introduce fuel just like that. We can wait for engine 2 to start up. Alright, engine 2 has successfully started up. Now we can go ahead and start engine 1, so we can put engine 1 to the ground position and once again wait for N2 to reach 25%. Alright, there's 25%. We can go ahead and introduce fuel and once again wait for engine 1 to start up. Alright, now that engine 1 has started up, we can go ahead and turn on our engine generators. We can turn our probe heat switches on. We can turn our packs on. We can put our isolation valve to auto. We can shut off our APU bleed, and we can go ahead and shut off our APU. And while we wait for our APU to shut off, we can go ahead and set our takeoff flaps 5. We can wait for those guys to set. Alright, now that our flaps have set, we can go ahead and test our flight control. So we can go to the systems page. We can go full back, full forward, full left, and full right. And for our rudder, we can go full left and rudder full right. That looks good. We can go ahead and set this back to the engines page. And with that, we can go ahead and turn our runway turn off lights on and our taxi lights on. We can set our engine start switches to continuous. And with that, we can release our parking brake and taxi on to runway 13 left. Alright guys, now that we are approaching runway 13 right, we can go ahead and begin our before takeoff checklist. So we can go ahead and turn all of our landing lights on. We can turn our runway turn off lights off and our taxi lights off. We can turn our position lights to strobe and steady right here. And everything else looks pretty good. We can confirm that we have flaps 5 set, which we do. So with that, we are pretty much ready to taxi onto runway 13 right. We look clear from the left and look okay from the right. So we are clear to taxi onto runway 13 right. Make our way on. We are going to be using VNav again today for our climb and hopefully for our descent, so Alright, here we go. Let's go to 40%. Right there. Full throttle. And once again, since the V-speeds did not load, we are just looking for about 135 knots, so
80 knots.
cross check. Alright, there's V1, rotate. Gear up. Once again, hold it at about 15 degrees up.
400.
Alright, there's 1,000 feet. We can go to 10 degrees. And there's 1,500 feet. We can go flaps up and we can go gear to their off position. And with that, we can go ahead and set our speed to 250 knots. We can arm our auto throttle, speed, VNAV, and our autopilot. And with that, we are on our way to Tucson. Alright guys, now that we are approaching 10,000 feet, we can go ahead and turn our landing lights off. We can put our engine start switches back to auto. We can put our position light down to steady, and we can turn our fasten seatbelt signs off. And that is it until 18,000 feet. Alright guys, now that we are approaching 18,000 feet, we can go ahead and set our altimeters to standard. And with that, we are set until top of descent, so I will see you guys then. Even though we still have about 20 nautical miles left for this waypoint, our next waypoint wants us to descend to flight level 299er. So to do that, we are just going to go ahead and flip our altitude down right there so that once we reach that waypoint, the VNAV will tell the plane to descend automatically. Anyways, guys, that's all I wanted to tell you for now, so I will be seeing you guys again at top of descent. Alright guys, so even though we are still 46 nautical miles from the top of descent, our next waypoint is telling us that we need to descend to 21,000 feet, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in my altitude box right here, so that when we do hit top of descent, VNAV will make the plane descend automatically, and we will not have to worry about that, so I will see you guys again at top of descent. Alright guys, as you guys can see, we are only 3.5 nautical miles away from top of descent. So once we do reach actual top of descent, we should be descending. Alright, we should be descending. And there we go. Now that we are descending, we can go ahead and turn our engine start switches to continuous, and our fasten seatbelt signs are already on due to some turbulence that we experienced midway through the flight. So I will see you guys at my next altitude restriction. Alright guys, so I am noticing that we do have to be down to 14,000 feet at our next waypoint, so I'm going to go ahead and set that right here so VNAV will descend automatically and we don't have to worry about touching anything up there. Alright guys, now that we have just crossed through 18,000 feet, I am going to go ahead and take my altimeters off their standard mode, and we do not need to set the altimeter for Tucson because I already preset that to 30.12, which is the current altimeter at Tucson, so we are good there. Alright guys, our FMC is saying that drag is required, so I'm going to go ahead and put my speed brakes down to the flight detent area right there, because obviously if our FMC is telling us that we need drag, we're going to have to acquire drag. Alright, so it's looking like our VNAV does not want to work anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and disengage this and just go down at 2,000 feet per minute because we do not want to miss our runway. That's set right there. That looks good. Alright guys, so our next waypoint says that we need to be down to 8,900 feet and we have to drop our speed to 250 knots. So I'm going to go ahead and set those guys right now so we can set our speed 250 knots and our altitude of 8,900 feet. And then after we cross through this waypoint, I will go down at about 2,000 feet per minute. Alright, we're close enough to this waypoint that I will just go ahead and start going down at about 2,000 feet per minute. Right about there. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead right now and try to fix what's going on with the autopilot because I do not really understand. So I am right now just going to go ahead and move direct to this waypoint right here. So actually I'm gonna go direct to Lippy right there. I'm gonna go execute and there we go. So we do have to descend a little bit quicker now, so I'm just gonna go ahead and set this to 0 and just go down at a little bit of a moderate pace right there. I'm gonna go ahead and decrease my speed to 200 knots so we can hopefully slow down a little bit, and I am going to set my flaps to flaps 5. Also, since we have crossed through 10,000 feet, I am going to go ahead and turn my landing lights all on. Like that. I'm going to turn my runway turn off lights on, and I'm going to go ahead and just leave my engine start switches continuous, and everything looks good for our descent. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and level out my descent a little bit, just so we do not go plummeting into the mountains that we have ahead of us. Also, I am going to be setting my auto brakes to 2 so we have a little bit more stopping power than usual. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put my speed down to 180 knots right here, and I am going to be setting my approach ref right here so we can hit init ref right there. Recalculate our gross weight looks good. So once again, I am going to be flying a flaps 40 landing, so that would mean that plus the wind correction, a 130 knot VREF, so that sounds good. As you can see, we are perfectly lined up with runway 11 left right here. My nav aids are set, so I do have the glide slope at my fingertips right here, and I'm going to be decreasing my speed to 160 knots right there. Once again, I am going to be shallowing out my turn a little bit so we can try to intercept the glide slope nicely. And since we are decreasing speed nicely, I am going to go ahead and arm my speed brake, just like so. And guys, now that we are approximately 10 nautical miles from the airport, I am going to go ahead and drop my gear and set my flaps to 15. I also am going to be dropping my speed to 150 knots so we can slow down a little bit here. Alright guys, now that we are close enough to the field, I am going to be arming my approach right here, and I'm going to wait for my glide slope to lock on. I'm going to pull my nose up a little bit here. I'm going to decrease my speed. There's the glide slope right there to 135 knots. And I'm going to be setting flaps 30 right here. Also guys, we can go ahead and set our position lights to strobe and steady right there. And now I'm going to be setting my flaps to full, and I'm going to disarm my auto throttle. 1,000 feet. And I'm going to go ahead and disengage my autopilot, my aircraft. There's this alarm right here. We're looking for 130 knots for our landing speed. Five hundred. 400. Landing. $200. There's 100.
50.
Retard our
40,
thrust.
30, 20, 10.
Nose. And we are down, guys. Welcome to Tucson. We can go ahead and engage our reverse thrust. Stay lined up here.
80 knots.
There's 60 knots. We can go ahead and put our reverse thrust in, manual braking, and just go ahead and coast here. Guys, welcome to Tucson. We can go ahead and put our flaps up. We can set our auto brake to off. We can put our speed brakes up.
We'll be taxiing for the next few minutes, so please remove the seatbelt fasten and all items stowed until the seatbelt sign is turned off.
Right, we can go ahead and turn our pro heat off, and we can start our APU and put our taxi lights on, and then start our APU. There we go. We can set our engine start switches back to auto. I believe this is where the ramp is. Yes. Ramps are this way. Go ahead and taxi to the ramp. Go ahead and pull up over here. We're just gonna go ahead and taxi all the way over to that Alaska over there. Wait, we can take this Alaska gate right here. Can go ahead and widen up our turn a little bit here. And pull into gate Bravo 6. Alright, he reads us. Alright, looking good so far. Uh-oh, we're gonna run over this truck, I guess. Alright. Can come to a complete stop. Brakes. And come on right here. We can turn our generators on. Shut down our engines. Ahead and shut our fasten seatbelt signs off. We can shut our taxi lights, landing lights off, runway turn-off lights off, and put our anti-collision light off. We can turn our position lights off. Window heaters can come off. Packs stay how they are. And that looks alright, just how it is. Well guys, that is going to wrap up today's video. The total flight time for today's flight was 2 hours and 5 minutes. I just want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and if you haven't yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button and like button for more content like this. And as always, I will be seeing you guys in my next video. Peace.